This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. For a free 10-day unlimited trial, visit lynda.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we have a group interview today, something we don't always do outside of the Mac jury, but this one I think deserves it. It's a bit of a special occasion. A little while ago, the Unofficial Apple Weblog, in fact, a very little while ago, the Unofficial Apple Weblog was closed down by AOL. But rising from the ashes is a new site, Apple World Today. And we have the perpetrators of Apple World Today here to talk about its rise and what it is and what you can expect to find there. So let's go around, let's find out who's here, and then we'll get into the story. First up, we'll start with the lady, because that's what we like to do here, Kelly Hodgkins. Kelly, welcome. It's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Chuck. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys, too. A little background on me. I'm living in rural Maine right now, so I'm kind of the outlier. Furthest away from civilization and technology, but I've been blogging for about 7 years now, four to five of it at TUAW with Dave and Steve, and it's been a great time. It's kind of sad to see TUAW go, but we're excited about what lies ahead with Apple World Today.
Great. Well, it's good to have you. And Maine probably equals pretty serious snow right now.
Actually, Massachusetts has gotten a lot more than we have. We're colder, but boy, they are getting a lot more snow than us.
Good. Well, yeah. I see a window, kind of the reflection of a window in the back, and I'm assuming there's a lot of snow out there. So.
There is, yes. Yeah.
Next up, also for his first time on MacVoices, Mr. Dave Caolo. Dave, welcome. It's great to have you.
Chuck, thanks. I'm very excited to be here today, and I can attest for the snow. I am here in Massachusetts. I live on Cape Cod, and we got about 24 inches a week ago that hasn't melted, and last night we got another 8 or 10, and we're expecting another 6 tomorrow. So I just want to thank Mother Nature for giving me an opportunity for a good cardio workout every 4 or 5 days when I've got to dig out the cars. It's been just wonderful.
Oh, that's I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I'm sure sorry because you guys really have gotten hammered this year.
But the Patriots won the Super Bowl, so that balances it out.
Oh boy! Oh, here we go. Look out! All right.
Well, I started writing with Tua 10 years ago as a freelancer, and then I moved to full-time editorial. I think in either 2009 or 2010. And I've been doing it since. I also have a podcast over on the 5x5 network. My co-host Aaron Mankey and I talk about all aspects of working from home. And the show's called Homework, and you can find it over at 5x5.tv/homework.
Terrific. Well, it's great to have you here, and congratulations on the launch.
Thanks.
Last but, of course, not least, a frequent visitor to MacVoices and the Mac Jury, and a good friend, Mr. Steve Sande. Steve, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Chuck. And I think knowing that I was going to be on here with both Kelly and Dave, Colorado decided to have some snow too. Just last week, we were having temperatures in this mid to high 60s, and it's snowing like a son of a gun right now. So I think they brought it with them. But for people who may not be familiar with me, I was also a writer over at Tua, did about 4 years of writing as a freelancer, and then about the last 2 as a full-time employee there as a writer and editor.
Good. I feel almost guilty complaining about the couple inches of snow we've had and the temperatures with everything you all have gone through, so we'll just skip all that. Because we just, it's central Pennsylvania can be bad, but not like you guys get it. All of you are in a whole different ballgame. So, guys, I'm going to throw it out. I'd like to know the story behind how Apple World Today came about. To the outside world, to most of us, we watched to make the announcement. It closed pretty quickly. It was not like there was a lot of lead time here. And to us, Apple World today just seemed to rise very quickly, and I can't imagine what it must have been like if it really was that way, getting the site in place, the domain in place, the sponsors in place, the editorial team in place to keep on going. So I'm not sure who's going to be the spokesman, but whoever wants to take it, get us started.
Well, I think Steve had the idea of, I want to keep doing what we're doing. So he was the spark behind what became Apple World today. So I think I'll let him talk about it.
Steve?
Yeah, we actually, we had, I guess you could say, some pre-warning, at least Dave and I did. Back in October, strangely enough, I was on vacation at the time, and we heard from our editor-in-chief that things weren't looking good for the smaller properties, not only Tua, but also Joystick. But there was quite a bit of concern that the sites would be shutting down at some point. And so both Dave and I panicked a little bit. And I had, early in 2014, just kind of, had this weird thought one day that it would be interesting to get a domain in place just in case something weird happened. And so at that time, they had just come out with a bunch of new top-level domains, .today being one of those. And I thought, Apple World today has kind of a ring to it. We're not only talking about Apple products and the Apple ecosystem, but the fact that we have readers over at Tua from all over the world, all over the planet. We have people who we've gotten to meet and be very good friends with. And today, well, we hope to be really kind of an up-to-date news source for people, as well as providing reviews and how-tos and all the other good things that people expect from a website. So I got the domain. That was about it. There was a little bit of work, after October where we started hearing, you might be shutting down a little bit. But Dave and I and Kelly were pretty much working full time. Kelly at the time was also writing for Mac Rumors, and there was a lot of work going on. So we really couldn't build the site behind the scenes. Also, AOL probably would have nailed us for conflict of interest if we had been working on it. So yeah, most of the work actually happened after we got notice. And the one company I just have to thank for having a really amazing content management system that's very flexible, allows for a lot of different features and integrations with other systems, is Squarespace. That's I'd say really the reason that we got things up and running so quickly. Also, Dave was talking about Aaron Mahnke, his cohort on the, what's the name of the podcast again? Homework. Yeah.
It's Homework, because we're working from home.
Yeah, because we work from home. But the Homework podcast, Aaron runs a design firm. And we went in and said, hey, we need a top-notch logo right off the bat. He's done some amazing logo work. And he was able to work with us over a weekend to actually get our logo through a bunch of different iterations and up and running.
That's Frog Studios, by the way. Yeah,
and he does amazing work. But we really, for the most part, we had kind of the shell in place on Monday morning when we got started, or late Sunday night, I'd say February 8th. We did have a couple little tweaks here and there. We're still making some tweaks, but I've got to hand it to the flexibility of Squarespace. We were able to get this thing up and running in record time.
I'm glad you said that, Steve, because that was going to be one of the things I wanted to do, to dig under the hood a little and see what you were running it on. I have a blog on Squarespace. I know I like the flexibility and what they can do, and this may be one of the best testaments to just the power of Squarespace to get something like this up and running. And these are people that really know what they're doing, so they could have gone a lot of different directions. And so, yeah, very, very nice, very nice.
Well, the one thing that I was probably most concerned about, as you know, I'm a real fan of WordPress, but the one thing I always find with WordPress is that I spend way too long tweaking, changing, doing this, doing that, and trying to get some of the plugins to work properly after an upgrade just seems to be impossible. With Squarespace, the one thing about them is that they do come out with major updates on a pretty regular basis, probably every year to year and a half. But they provide a test environment. They roll these things out so that you're not going to have a major problem. And they know, because they own all the little plugins, they know that they're going to be working. So I felt very good about that also. And I've told other people about this as well. One of the big things that really got me excited about using Squarespace was to see how they responded during Hurricane Sandy a few years ago, because they're located in Lower Manhattan. They have their server farm there. I think they've since kind of spread out to multiple sites now. But at the time, that was their sole server farm. And power was out all over Manhattan. They had a generator. They had very little fuel, diesel fuel available, and they were concerned that things were going to go down. But not only did we, because I had a personal blog on their site at that point, not only did they keep things up and running, but their employees were so dedicated that they were running buckets of diesel fuel up like 20 flights of stairs to pour them into the tank to keep that diesel generator going. And then they never had a second of downtime. So, they're not paying for me to say this either. We pay them right now. But
yeah.
I just, that was another reason I really wanted to go with them. Real dedication to uptime.
Kelly, to go into business with these two characters, didn't you have any better options?
Well, it's kind of, unlike Dave and Steve, didn't have the advance warning about AOL shutting down Tua. We found out through TechCrunch, because I was a freelancer. I'm not privy to some of the meetings and other information they had. So we found out when TechCrunch published it on Monday. At that point, I had already decided to part ways with Mac Rumors, and I was looking at other options because I wanted to free up my schedule a little bit in the mornings. So I'd already lined up another position writing for a smaller blog called iPhone Hacks, which I'm still doing kind of on the side. And when the news came out of TechCrunch that they might shut down Joystick and possibly Tua, that's when I kind of said, is there any merit to this rumor? Reached out to everybody on the team. And it was shortly after that on the side that Steve and Dave approached me about joining them at Apple World Today. I love what I do, did at 2AW. I enjoyed the writing that I did, the reviews, and the daily deal. So I was able to continue on with that with these guys. So it seemed like a perfect fit. Timing was perfect, and everything has been working out great so far.
I don't think a lot of us appreciate just how many freelancers are part of some of the major Apple and Mac news sites. They're staff, of course, but there are a lot of freelancers that bounce around and help provide all the great content. So it's always interesting when you look under the covers a little bit, and it's like, oh, so you were writing for this one and this one and this one, and so now you're just consolidating and maybe upgrading your status a little with Apple Daily World, Apple World Today. See,
Slaps.
I know. It's not quite off the tongue yet. This is how new it is. It's not off the tongue.
It is. That's true. Well, what's really sad is I find myself, multiple times per day, I go in and I'm either typing in CMS dot, whatever it was, to get into the Tua CMS, or I'm typing in Tua to look at, what's on the site right now. And I'm going, no. It gets pre-programmed into you. It really did.
Yeah, and I'll fess up to typing Apple World.
No concerns
today.
There, Chuck. We're doing it too. Yeah.
I'll confess to typing appleworldtoday.com a few times.
Oh, quite a bit.
Very confused.
That works, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and today, as we're recording this, today is day 8, which is crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you taking the time, because I was anxious to get this out, and obviously to help promote the site. It's. I mean, listen, it's kind of been rough. We've seen Macworld go to a bit of a shell of their former selves, although you feel like they're trying to come back as things settle down there a bit. Macworld, iWorld, Macworld Expo, whatever is on hiatus this year. And then for Tuwa to decide, or for Apple AOL to shut Tuwa down, it's like, man, it almost doesn't make sense because Apple is bigger, better than ever. And yet these companies seem to be saying, well, Mac and Apple News doesn't have the same merit that it used to, which obviously I don't agree with, and I doubt that you all do too.
Yeah, I certainly disagree. It'll be interesting to see when the Apple Watch comes out, because it's going to be I think it's going to be a massive thing in the way that iPhone was a massive thing, because it's certainly not the first watch in the world, but it's going to be it's going to affect real change, I think. And interest in that will just be, as it is with the iPhone, it's unrelenting. Like, when the numbers come out and we see the iPhone 6 has sold such huge numbers, you got to think, after all these years, doesn't everyone who wants an iPhone have one at this point? But they just keep making them, and people keep buying them. And I suspect that the watch will be on a similar trajectory for a while.
I keep wondering if it's one of those things that because Apple has almost gotten too big to have a fan base, that now they're part of the landscape, the way maybe, I don't know, a given washing machine or
like
brand
Disney
of TV.
Or something.
Yeah, great. Better example than I was giving. So yes, I love to go to the Disney theme parks, but I don't necessarily wear Disney on my shirt and put a Disney bumper sticker on my car. You think we've reached that point, or do you think there's still enough people that are really focused on Apple and enthusiastic about Apple?
Oh, I was going to say, I think that's really the reason we decided to go ahead with this site is we saw just such I don't know if you want to call it loyalty or a fan base at Tuwa. Every time we'd go to Macworld, iWorld, there were a lot of people who came up and, I read you guys all the time. We absolutely love your site. We had just an outpouring of tweets, emails from people when they found out that this site was going to shut down. So bringing this back, kind of back up to life the week after as Apple World Today, I think was kind of a tip of the hat to that fan base out there, and trying to make sure that we had something available that kind of create a little sense of continuity.
Well, it's so much of it seems to be about community, I think. Steve, you used the word fan base, but really there was a Tuwa community. And I don't know if that's just the nature of the online communities that develop around everything now. It doesn't have even to be technology. But I think it's so important, and it's something that the larger corporations seem to have trouble wrapping their arms around, understanding, and nurturing. Kelly, do you see that? Because you've cut across multiple blogs that you write for.
Yeah, and I've seen that at all the different places. There's some overlap between the different communities, but I think people are fiercely loyal to the places that they read. What I also see too, though, is that with Apple selling 55 million iPhones last quarter, that there's 55 million potentially new customers who've never had an iPhone, who might be looking for a new community to join. Every year it seems like there's more and more people. I see more and more people with the iPhone, friends and people I would never expect to have the iPhone. So I think that there's a limit to it, but it's still growing. There's still opportunities in there if you can hit the right target people.
Okay, so I'm going to use that as the perfect jumping off point for something else I wanted to make sure we make clear here. And that is, what is the new site going to focus on? Is it going to be sort of an extension of what Tuwa is or was, or is it going to focus on very specific things, product reviews or news or that kind of thing? Dave, how are you all structuring this?
Well, I think it's natural to think of Apple World Today as sort of Tuwa 2, a 2-hour part 2. But I don't think that's entirely fair. We're certainly going to do some of the things that we've been doing, some of the things that people have enjoyed, like covering news, doing hardware reviews, doing software reviews, writing opinion pieces, and other stuff like that that folks have really enjoyed. But now that we aren't beholden to a corporate parent, we have an opportunity to implement ideas faster or at all that we wouldn't have been able to do before. Like, we want to do lots of video reviews. Today we introduced what will be our first regular guest column that will come out from a person who's not a member of the staff, but it has a great expertise in a certain area and will write regularly for us on a certain topic. That's something we probably wouldn't have been able to do previously, or would have taken a lot of work to get approved. We want to potentially do a forum in the future, which we never had. We want to do at least one podcast, if not more. So we're going to do some of the things that former to our readers enjoyed, but now that we're only beholden to ourselves, it's just the three of us, we can implement and try these new ideas right away and see how they work. And so I think that's what I'm most excited about. That, it's part of the crew from Tua, and we're going to be doing some of the stuff you love, but it's a new site as well, and we're doing some new things.
Steve, since there isn't going to be a parent company overseeing this, I would imagine that gives a lot more editorial freedom, but it also can create maybe some conflict between you three, potential conflict between you three and anybody else that joins the team. How are you going to handle that? I hate oversight, but how are you going to handle that oversight or that coordination?
Well, one thing Dave was talking about, the flexibility to, really put new things into place. And that also extends to really how we are controlling things, I guess you could say, behind the scenes. We started with a blank slate, and in a little over a week, we've done some amazing things with a tool that's out there. It was used as groupware. It also allows us, through some various integrations, to do some amazing things, and that's Slack. And I got to tell you, in 1 week, I've fallen in love with this. We've used it a little bit at AOL for various reasons, but it's turned into kind of a wonderful newsroom for us. We're able to do things that we want to do. We say, hey, it'd sure be nice to be able to give everybody an indication of when sponsorships are coming in, or what's happening in the rest of the world, and be able to have that right in one tool instead of having to throw things together. So I think in terms of bringing us together, giving us all the same information and things like that, the tools behind the scene are really helping us in that respect. Conflict, I've worked with these two for years, so I don't think there's going to be any problem there.
Yeah, and I probably should apologize for that. I really didn't mean conflict as in, armed conflict, but maybe disagreements over what position you take on different things. We all know how difficult it can be to work even with friends when you have. In fact, it can be more difficult because
for sure.
You don't want to kill the friendships,
right.
But you and knowing the reputations of you three and some of you personally, you have strong opinions on things.
Yeah, that's why I'm not friends with Kelly.
No, I stay away from Dave.
Well, I think one of the things we have to do, and it's funny because we've been talking about how we've been building this thing as we go, is we'll have to develop a style guide, and that we can hand to people who are writing guest posts for us, so that we can get that sort of unity of voice, and to make it very clear, here's what we expect from a post that appears on our site. And that's something we can do. And it's interesting that Steve was talking about Slack earlier, because one of the transitions that we're still really in the process of making is going from the old tools that we had over at AOL to finding comparable replacements today. Like, we had such a beautiful workflow in place with AOL's proprietary CMS, and we were always in IRC. That was sort of our office. And we had a bunch of automated bots that did things for us, and all that's gone now. So one of the challenges we're still working on is finding replacements for each of those things that will allow us to work the way we were used to working.
Kelly, this would seem to be a wonderful laboratory kind of thing to test out some of all these new tools, because I'm sure you all get the same press releases I do, that there's always a new collaboration tool, a new collaboration workflow, something else to try. Oh my God, this app will solve all of your problems. And then you try them and they don't, and you become a little jaded. So you all are going to have a chance to really put this stuff to the test in a genuine environment, but with a limited number of people. And hopefully you'll be reporting on that for us.
I would plan on it. All the different tools that we try, we actually get to learn their shortcomings, their strengths, and their, like their weaknesses. So I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, that would seem to be like an automatic series built in right there as part of the process.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, kind of tools of the trade.
Yeah.
Well, and I tell you, once again, getting back to Squarespace, they have not only a really good iOS blogging tool that just lets you blog. You can't design a page. You can't do a lot. I was able to sit down the other night, sitting in front of the TV, wrote a post, got an image, put the image in there, did everything I needed to, and scheduled the post. To be honest with you, it was very difficult when we were using the proprietary CMS over at that other website. So that was a plus. Also, being able to keep an eye on metrics is very important to us now. That's something we never really had any look at other than at a very, very high level. And that's something that, is very important to us now. And they have a tool that lets us get in, see what kind of reader we have on a particular day.
This edition of Mac Voices is sponsored by lynda.com, the unparalleled online video training library. I'm not a betting man under most circumstances, but if I were, I'd bet that you like learning new things. After all, that's why you're listening to Mac Voices. And that's why you should visit lynda.com/MacVoices right now and sign up to try their video training free for a full 10 days. When you do, I bet you'll find courses on things that you would expect, like Excel and WordPress, iOS 8, and maintaining your Mac. But I bet you'll be surprised by the depth of the courses of lynda.com too. Pretty much anything you want to learn about is there, just waiting for you. Sure, you'll find some excellent Photoshop training, but I bet you'll be surprised by some of the other extra things you'll find as lynda.com celebrates Photoshop's 25th anniversary. Articles and courses to help inspire you and to help you learn. In fact, at this moment, 237 Photoshop-focused courses are available on lynda.com. I say at this moment because lynda.com is adding new courses every week, so by the time you hear or see this, you may have even more to choose from. And that's just Photoshop. Thinking of migrating from Aperture to Lightroom? lynda.com has 17 courses on Lightroom to make sure you know what you're doing. Or perhaps you're interested in education, your own or the classroom. lynda.com has 212 education and learning courses with a total of 5,271 video tutorials. I'll bet they have exactly what you want. Evernote, Google Drive, iBooks Author, the list goes on, and we've only touched on a few areas of interest. And all of that is open to you when you sign up for your 10-day free trial. No limitations, no restrictions, no off-limits courses. Watch as many as you can squeeze into those 10 days, and I'll bet you want to keep watching. People all over the world are using lynda.com to improve their skills for fun, for profit, for business, and for pleasure. You can too. If you're smart, and I bet you are, then go get smarter and sign up for a free 10-day trial at lynda.com/MacVoices. That lets them know you heard about it here. Let me know you heard about it here by tweeting me at Chuck Joyner or emailing me at chuck@macvoices.com. I want to know what you decided to learn about. lynda.com/MacVoices for 10 full free days of learning. Get started today and be smarter tomorrow. Thanks to lynda.com for their support of Mac Voices. You mentioned podcast, and I mean, it seems like right now everybody needs a podcast. Whether they need it or not, they need a podcast. And I know there were podcasts at Too Odd that had been pretty darn successful, and again had their own audience and their own following. Do you do you plan this to be just sort of a general kind of Apple, Mac, iOS news kind of thing, or is it going to be a little broader technologically from a tech standpoint, or some other vision for it?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't think we've even talked about what we want the details or specific content to be. There are a lot of shows where it's just, thoughts and opinions and insights on what's happening. And there are so many shows that are so well established that do that I don't know if we would want to try to compete in that space or do something a little different. This is my long way of saying I'm not sure, Chuck.
Yeah.
But I'll see what my compatriots here have to say.
Yeah. Steve, Kelly?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Dave. I think there are already a lot of strong Apple voices out there already. I would like to find something that might grab a different type of user, somebody who hasn't been exposed, and make it more of a community. I think that's what I look forward to the most, is that to some degree at 2A, we are separated from our audience, where I'm looking forward to now actually getting to know the people that I'm writing for.
Yeah, and in terms of building that community, we talked a little bit about hopefully being able to go to some sort of forum at some point. But one thing that I'd say was almost a little bit of the writing on the wall was back in June of 2014. The podcast that we did have at 2A were shut down, and we were just told don't spend the time and effort doing those, even though we loved doing them. We had an established audience, and really had a lot of people upset when that happened. But for instance, 2A TV Live was a weekly thing that went for about an hour a week. Occasionally, we'd be on topic about some of the news of the day, but a lot of times myself and Doc Rock, Sean Boyd is his actual name there, and I, and on occasion some other folks, would talk about other, many other topics. We had a vibrant audience that would ask questions, make fun comments, do different things like that. And I really miss that level of community. And so I'm hoping that we can really rebuild that here at Apple World today.
It's an interesting mix, because it sounds like Kelly is thinking more like I would tend to think. And that is, what's the value of it? What can we deliver that, is somebody else isn't doing, or can we do it better, or at least can we add something to the conversation? And Steve, what you were saying, I'm not sure that it's necessary to do that. Just it's more necessary to give the community a place to congregate and have a good time. So I don't know that there's a right or wrong approach here. They're just two different approaches, and hopefully maybe you can meld them and take the best of both worlds.
That's probably why we got all three of us together, because we all have different ideas and opinions and and get along pretty well.
Yeah, we're back to that whole oversight thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably the best thing too is for instance, we had a discussion last night online about the name of one of the guest columns that was coming up, and I had listened to the columnist and kind of took his name and put it in there. And Dave goes, no, don't do that. And this is why I don't want to do it. And I looked at his comment and I went, wow, I must have had too many beers when I approved that name. So we changed it back to something that was less controversial, I guess is the best way of putting it. Oh, and I have a cat visitor coming in.
Oh, good. Steve, you're teasing me, and that's not fair, because now I want to ask you what the old name and the new name were, and I know I can't, so I won't. Maybe offline you can tell me.
What's that?
The old name and the new name of the column, the ones you accepted and rejected. So, but we won't.
That'll be off topic. Yeah.
Well, I think this illustrates something that's really important to me. And Aaron and I did an episode of Homework, I think last year, where we talk about creating what we call your personal board of directors. These are the people you can come to when you have an idea and say, I'm thinking of this. What do you think? And these people have expertise in different areas, typically an area that you're not so strong in, so you can bounce ideas off them and get information. And for me, the most important aspect of a member of my personal board of directors is they're not afraid to say, Dave, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that. And that's what I want. That's what I think is the most valuable. And I get that from these two. And I know Steve just got a great example for me where it's nice to be able to trust the person to say, yes, Steve and I are friends, but I don't think this is the best choice for this particular move. And Steve can look and say, oh, yeah, he's right. And so I think that's the most important aspect of a person you're bouncing ideas off of. And I'm happy that the three of us have that.
I couldn't agree more. You're not doing your job if you're just a yes person.
Right.
And so, that may mean delivering some bad news or some tough news, but sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Sometimes we're coming up with topics for homework and Aaron will tell me, Dave, that's awful. We just won't do it.
One other thing I wanted to ask about, and I certainly don't want to get too much into the finances of the new site, but you've made an interesting choice from appearances. You're accepting sponsors, but you're also running a Patreon campaign. And I know some people feel that those are diametrically opposed. I don't happen to feel that way. And I'm curious to see what kind of response you've gotten from your readers, and really what was the thinking behind sort of going down both paths.
Steve?
Yeah.
Steve?
Steve.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the big thing is, all of us really, we need a job. No, anyway, we do need, the show doesn't run without money. Remember the famous line in The Right Stuff, no bucks, no Buck Rogers. It was a great line. And that kind of, I have to say, really is something that it does motivate us. We need to make a living off of this. So we knew that sponsors, at least until we get our readership numbers to a very high level, sponsorships were going to only be really kind of one level of our total income coming in. And we started chatting about it, and I think it was Dave who came up with the Patreon idea and said, maybe we ought to take a look at this in terms of being able to really give the readership a bit of ownership almost into the site, instead of just being somebody who reads and maybe occasionally clicks on an ad and gives us a tenth of a cent of income there. In this case, they can really say, hey, I find that what you're writing, what you're providing for the community as a whole is very worthwhile. And not only that, I'm going to give you some money. Mm-hmm. We've actually had a number of people who have gone in and are sponsoring us to the tune of over $100 a month, which is absolutely frightening. We'll find out for sure at the beginning of March when the credit card goes through. See if they change the first day there. But that to me was just a really good indication that people do want us around, that they're willing to put up that money to keep the things going.
I think it's really interesting to hear you all express your opinions, because there's sort of my thoughts that, because I've been playing with the idea of a Patreon campaign and seeing the people that do just Patreon or just ads. And I've in communicating to some of my readers and viewers and listeners, I get the impression that there are more and more people that are recognizing that this stuff can't be done for free, and they honestly want to support it. They would rather not be inconvenienced by supporting it, and that's a whole other discussion. Mm-hmm. But they're willing to say, hey, yes, I do find value in this, and just like I used to find value in paper magazines, and so I supported them through subscriptions. Now I'm going to throw you, a couple bucks a month or more if you keep on putting out the kind of content and kind of things that benefit me. So I think it's a great idea, and I love it. And I was really interesting to see if have you gotten any negative feedback for the split?
No, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
No.
But it's funny because that's exactly the analogy I use. Like when I was in high school, I was crazy about cars. And I had a subscription to Car and Driver magazine. I had a subscription to Motor Trend magazine. And I kept it for 4 years, all through my high school career. And it was because I loved that topic and I wanted those magazines. So I paid my whatever it was to get those. And now I think that it's sort of a similar thing, that you're paying to continue to get this thing that you love. But also, I think of the patrons as like the super fans. These are the people who, would camp out to get tickets to the concert if we were a band, which is horrifying. But and I love interacting.
Chuck is going to have to ask Kelly about her background as a deadhead. But
Okay.
And sorry. I mean, Kelly was talking about community earlier, and I love interacting with the patrons. Like, we have our reward set up, but I've already sent them stuff like above and beyond to all of them. Like, I've sent some videos, I've sent some sneak peeks of what I'm working on this week. I've sent little like pictures of my notebook, how an article comes to life from thought to final draft. And it's really fun to sort of share this stuff, this behind the scenes stuff, with the people who were interested and generous enough and enthused enough to give us some of their money just to do this.
Kelly, too, I'm picking on you because you have worked, and at the outset you said you have written for different people. Don't you find now that there's more of a relationship between the readers and the writers than there used to be? I mean, maybe it was just me, at a different time in my life or in a different world, but I never felt necessarily that great a connection with writers for magazines. Occasionally you'd find somebody and you really liked what they did and they did something unusual, and so you tended to follow them. But usually I was picking up Newsweek or Time or Rolling Stone or whatever, and it was the magazine that was the identity. And now I think it's a lot more the identity of Kelly or Steve or Dave, no matter where they happen to be.
No, significantly much more so with the blog. I think the commenting systems and Twitter and other ways people can interact really opens up readers with the writers, both in a good way and a negative way too, because for every good comment you get a bad comment too. But I do think it does open the door for that much more close-knit community, and especially around Apple products where you have a core group of enthusiasts more than you would with Samsung or other products.
Yeah. And I think the tech community too, especially because the tech community is more likely to be out there looking for specific advice on things they are going to spend their money on. So they're looking for trusted voices and people they get to know and say, okay, I know what Chuck likes. I know what Steve likes. I know what Dave likes, what Kelly likes. And I trust their judgments because I've followed them in the past and they've worked out.
I think the personality starts to play a role in that too, because through things like seeing their photos on Twitter or maybe following this person on Instagram or whatever it is, you get to know that person as a person as well as a writer, and that has a big appeal. Like, I read The Loop, Jim Dalrymple's The Loop, not only because the writing is top-notch and I know that I can expect really good writing and great reporting, but I just like Jim a lot. And I want to support him, not only as a writer, but as a person, because I just like him. And I think that plays a role today more than it did when I was reading Car and Driver or Motor Trend. I couldn't name any of the people who wrote back then.
Yeah. Kelly, should I ask about the whole deadhead thing that Steve mentioned?
Yeah, you can. Back in the day, huh, Steve? When I used to travel across country following them with a VW van, selling cheeseburgers. No, actually grilled cheese and cheeseburgers and all sorts of stuff.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I would imagine
she took it to the next level. I was just
I did.
A general,
you weren't generating money with hamburgers.
Yeah, she was living the life.
I did. Went all the way across and all the way back. Did a whole spring, summer, and fall tour for a whole year.
Wow.
Got to be a lot of great stories that came out of that.
There was all sorts of things I saw. It was interesting.
You need to write a book.
I should.
No. I hear a podcast.
Like Serial.
Exactly.
Just tell one of your story across 7 episodes.
Yeah, or just one story an episode, and you probably have a good 40 or 50 episodes right there.
Right. Get Ira Glass to produce, and you'll be great.
Well, where do obviously we send people to the website. What other social media presences do you have set up? How are you handling that aspect of it, since that's so important in today's world?
So if people go out to appleworld.today or appleworldtoday.com, what they're going to find at the top right of the page are our current social media links. We have Facebook, Twitter. Facebook, it's facebook.com/AppleWorld or AW Today, I think it is. Twitter is Apple World Today. LinkedIn, just do a search for Apple World Today, you'll find it. We also have a YouTube channel, and we have Google+. So they can find us pretty much on everything except Pinterest, and I suppose that's something we're going to have to pick up now, too. We also do, of course, have a RSS feed, and the link for the RSS feed is right below that.
I'm not sure that a lot of folks appreciate just how much work goes into setting up things in today's world, covering all those assets, covering all the bases. It's a lot. Most of us have done it over time. Something else came on board or became more popular, you add it in. But boy, just to start it up from scratch, you need a checklist. And folks, Apple World Today may be where you want to go if you're interested in doing something. Watch them as they develop, because it's a lot of work, but stuff you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, guys, congratulations.
Yeah, now we have to write about all of it.
I know.
I know. So, Steve, I put Pinterest and Instagram on the to-do list. We don't have those yet.
And let's see, anything else we should brainstorm here that needs to, let's see. LL?
Oh, no, we don't have that yet either.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
There you go. So
no Snapchat.
That'll be an interesting thing. That's another discussion, Dave.
Okay.
Well, I want to congratulate you all on the challenge of launching this new site as quickly as you did it, getting it all up and running, and I'm looking forward to watching it develop, and of course, watching the quality writing and coverage that comes out from you all, because you've been doing it, so I have an idea of what to expect from this conversation. I know I'll be seeing some new twists.
Great. Thanks so much. We're enthused.
Yeah, thank you.
Come back anytime and tell us how it's going.
Oh, all right.
Thanks, Chuck.
You're all welcome. Yeah. Dave, Kelly, great to have you here for the very first time. Steve, always a pleasure to have you. Hopefully we can make this a regular thing, with everybody being a little more visible on the Mac Jury, and anything else that you want to talk about. Since you're doing your own podcast, you don't need this, but you're welcome here anytime.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Folks, appleworld.today or appleworldtoday.com, as Steve said. Go check it out. I think you're going to like it, and take the time to click all your favorite social media links so that you can find these folks wherever you are they want to be. Until the next time, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Mac Voices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the Mac Voices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest Mac Voices news from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free Mac Voices magazine on Flipboard by visiting macvoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.